All right, so let's get into Ethereum today. Is a rally incoming after some interesting performance over the weekend? We're going to break it all down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. If you're looking at long-term holding or maybe going into a crypto IRA, one of the best things you can do is check out iTrust Capital. And of course, you can get into Bitcoin, Ethereum, a whole slew of altcoins as well as precious metals. So there's a lot of options over there that you guys do have. And there's no fees monthly. You're just doing transaction fees for when you're doing something inside your account. So make sure and check it out. It is a link down below. You get a $100 funding reward if you use our link, and it works out for you guys. Let me know. All right, so let's get going here on a couple of things. I want to jump over to a article on the block. And this one is really just hitting on the whole issue around inflow. 767 million 6-week streak. ETH, of course, now seeing the largest inflow since August of 2022. A couple of points within the article. Come and zoom in on that one right there. Digital asset investment products as asset managers such as CoinShares, Bitwise, Grayscale, 21 Shares, etc. The funds have been adding 261 million to 767 million over the past 6 weeks. So pretty big deal considering this passes or surpasses all of the inflows we saw in 2022. And I think you can kind of see the chart right here of the inflows. What is it that is happening that's causing this? Some people would look at a couple of things. One, of course, is the movement on Bitcoin as an ETF, because could that mean that Ethereum could get an ETF, or does Ethereum move in unison like it has in the past with what Bitcoin is doing? One other thing that was in the article here says if Ether crypto funds generated the most inflow since August. One of the things here, though, this of course totaled 17 million, a significant turnaround from 107 million in outflows that they faced this year. So that's another factor I think that plays into this. I don't know when you guys, and I know I'm a big investor in Ethereum. You know, I get behind this project. I like the ecosystem. I like the potential of it. But I'm always questioning, you know, are there other faster ones? Are there some other opportunities out there? There's a lot of different angles that you can go. But of course, with ETH, one of the things to look at is a recent analysis on this is just looking at this potential bullish breakout. You can kind of see this downward wedge that's painted in by this analyst. And they've looked at a couple of points where it's bounced off this wedge top and has retraced down. But right now, it's outperforming this, which is the point of where we've seen this $1,900 breakout. If it continues to fly over the 1900, which is where it is right now, does this mean that maybe Ethereum is set to have its own little mini rally, much like what Bitcoin had going up to 35K? This is going to be a good one to watch. Hong Kong, of course, is now, their regulator is welcoming crypto spot ETF proposals. And a lot within this that I think is important. This is the SFC's chief executive, Julia Lung, said that the regulator will entertain proposals that boost efficiency and customer experience. And we're happy to give it a try as long as risks are addressed. Our approach is consistent regardless of the asset, she said. So basically what they're doing is they're talking about crypto ETFs. That to me is a pretty significant scenario, especially because of what's happening here, even within the United States, having so much struggle just getting a Bitcoin ETF passed, a spot ETF passed. I think this is an opportunity for Hong Kong to kind of plant a flag in the sand and maybe show that this can be done in a very responsible way. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority, HKMA, is also developing guidelines to help banks hold tokenized asset. This is another factor that I think we'll see a big ramp up on once we get an ETF underway and once the SEC starts to hopefully give some leeway on what's going to happen within the crypto markets. I think banking will be one of the next areas that will be on deck for sure. But let's not forget, there's still a lot of Ethereum FUD in the market. One of them, of course, is this article from Bitcoinist. Ethereum insider drops bombshell. ETH founders fraud bigger than the FTX fraud. Of course, we have to show this. Just to kind of show you, this is the attorney that was talking about this, and I'll highlight this right here. Naroff said that the two Ethereum founders have allegedly orchestrated fraudulent activities regarding ETH blockchain and exceeded the scale of actions even by the former FTX CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried. So I don't know. These are the kind of things that I feel like within this market, there's always FUD one way or the other. you're getting FUD on Bitcoin, you're getting FUD on Ethereum or any project out there. But I think if you're doing the research, you start to realize where these opportunities are. And when you ask the questions, it starts to reveal the answers. I want to jump over to a couple of clips here. And this is Cathie Wood asking questions and maybe revealing some answers to herself. Listen in.
Can I just ask a quick question? What would be the opposition to that? Any particular reason, or is this taking off pretty quickly?
For like stablecoins on Lightning, or for integration into the service providers?
Integration.
So I think on the integration side, well, the first thing is that there is no stablecoin on Lightning live yet, right? And so hopefully you'll have like a USDC or USDT that goes live. I think the second step is that if you're developing predominantly for like an EVM environment, right? If you just do like EVM and Solana, you already have something like 90% of the smart contract market share. And so you really only have to do two things, and they all kind of work like relatively in similar ways.
Now, the clip here is of Cathie Wood and a lot of Lightning developers that are kind of addressing the issues and the questions she has in terms of expansion of the project, but also the functionality of it. And that is the thing that is interesting because it's relative to what's happening with Ethereum right now. And part of this is not only in adoption, because remember, ETH, largest ecosystem out there, largest number of developers, probably the most apps, even though we've seen a lot of movement both in Avalanche and Solana. But this next clip goes into the adoption of Lightning. Now, and this isn't about Lightning versus ETH, but it is about how Ethereum has a potential here as a payment architecture in the future. But listen in.
Is this more of a developed world, or is the developing world getting involved? I just don't know your business well enough.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of our users, I would say, are in Latin America. So it is for us very much largely developing regions.
All right, so as you can see there, they're talking about Lightning's deployment in terms of adoption. A lot of this happening in the emerging markets. We've known that even if you look back at the success that Bitcoin has had in El Salvador, and also Lightning to a certain extent because it's being used across Strike and other platforms that integrate with Lightning. But her question was pretty straightforward. Why are we not seeing these kinds of integrations on a global perspective in some of the major markets? Now, granted, we have not necessarily seen that either within the ETH ecosystems. Now, granted, within the ETH ecosystem, we're seeing a lot of dApps starting to develop and solve some of these challenges and these problems. And I think that's the thing that maybe Woods is getting to, is trying to understand why we haven't seen the kind of opportunities that Ethereum has represented. So it's a very interesting situation, I think, with both Lightning and Bitcoin, along with the alternative, which really right now I would still say is Ethereum. Even though Solana has a lot of potential, it still is an emerging, layer one that does have a lot of use cases. But again, it's hard to match up to what's happened within the ETH ecosystem in such a long period of time. Now, granted, it doesn't mean it can't be done. There's still a lot happening there. I want to jump over to another article. Brian Armstrong says on-chain is the new online, as Coinbase beats their expectations with $674,000 in revenue for the quarter. And the internet was and is a game-changing technology that redefined our modes of communication. Totally agree with him there. Business and social interaction. Blockchain and crypto are doing the same thing today. Totally agree with him there. Broader access to financial services and even changes how we think in identity, governance, artwork, and non-financial services. All this is applicable. Here is my argument with what Coinbase and what Brian Armstrong is talking about. And I think he knows this. And I've talked to many of the Coinbase team, and I feel like they all kind of get it in the sense that when you look at the birth and the growth of the internet, we never really addressed the monetary or the financial system. It was really more about the information system. Now what you're doing with Web3 and the evolution of blockchain is you're addressing both. You're addressing the information system and you're addressing the financial system. And that, I think, is going to be the challenge. And it's the continuing challenge. That's why it's been so hard, I think, to get a regulation here in the United States, is because it is messing with the one thing that most people have not messed with in the past, and that is the money. And I think that's the scenario we've got to face. Last point he hits on was regulatory clarity. In the US is still a big hurdle. To my point, that is one of the biggest issues. Further in this, just to give you kind of an insight on this, SEC now is struggling to hire crypto experts because they all seem to want to hodl. I like that topic line. A couple of points from the article, and kind of zoom in on this right here. Many qualified candidates hold crypto assets, which the Office of Ethics and Counsel have determined would prohibit them from working on particular matters of affecting crypto assets. I don't know if you would get a crypto expert that wouldn't be holding crypto. So are they looking for a white elephant? I think they might be. It's very possible. And then when you don't have the crypto experts, you can't really find the crypto bad guys. Is that what they're going to have to probably loosen up on those situations? Candidates are often unwilling to divest their crypto. Can you imagine that? I'm not willing to give up my Bitcoin, my Ethereum, my Solana, so I can come work for the SEC. Interesting. Maybe they already know. The writing is on the wall. Let's go to another clip here. This is talking about developers also coming in from Cathie Wood. Listen in.
One of the metrics we like to look at is the number of developers. Over time, the number of developers on Ethereum has really taken off, and while the number on Bitcoin generally it's still moving up, it was the slope had changed and flattened out. Have all of the developments that you're talking about on the Lightning Network change that dynamic? Are we starting to see an inflection point with more Bitcoin developers here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so, especially when you think about like ordinals and all of those things. I mean, those are kind of came and they haven't went, but they're not as popular as they were.
There was a hackathon recently. There was like 200 people that submitted ideas. And yeah, maybe they're not like building those out in full, but I think I know it's nothing compared to the scale of Ethereum, but it's hard to build on Bitcoin. I think everybody knows here it's a little bit harder.
I don't think it's ever going to have the same amount of developer interest as Ethereum because you can't experiment as much.
When we come to building games with, rewards in them, we're not messing around with like NFTs and tokens and all of this that just kind of complicate things.
So I think in short, they're simply saying, yeah, this is not going to develop at the scale or at the pace in which Ethereum or other chains like it are developing on. But at the same time, I look at it and I think, well, other layer ones have been able to do this. Solana right here, 7,000 registrants, 907 submissions, participants from over 120 countries. This is what happens, I think. This was the Hyperdrive hackathon that they did. Toli was talking about that in terms of the growth, but almost 1,000 submissions here. This is a developer ecosystem that is starting to explode, much like what you saw in the birth and the explosion of the ETH ecosystem. Those are the ones that I'm watching. Again, ETH is continuing to skyrocket and do these kind of things, which again gives it the opportunity to experiment, to try new things, to do things that really solve real world problems. That at the end of the day for blockchain is where it all matters, because if you don't solve real world problems, what are you doing? What are you doing out there? Let's go over to another clip real quick. This is talking about Ethereum and Solana. Listen in.
I think it's like a little bit naive to be like, hey, everything else is a scam and this is the only thing that's not a scam. What Ethereum is trying to do is build a credibly neutral blockchain on which anybody can build whatever they want. And like even looking at something like Solana, like their values are really straightforward. They want to be the cheapest and the fastest. Like they just want to be an app platform. 99% of the people in each of these things are building things that they want to build for people that, they want them to use it. There's a small cohort in every community, and the Bitcoin community has it as well, that talks nonsense and, is scammy and misleads people.
All right, so you kind of can see that there is a bit of a light bulb, I think, going off in Cathie Wood's head. Now, I know Cathie is big into Bitcoin, but I think maybe she is starting to look a lot stronger into these alternatives, including Ethereum, Solana, and others that'll kind of flow into that. One of the articles that kind of point to this is a repeat of the 2019 bull run, crypto now in play amid Bitcoin and Ethereum surge. This is coming from Chris Burniske. Now, remember, Chris Burniske was on the ARC team, former head of crypto at Cathie Wood's ARC, and basically says right here, if Bitcoin and ETH rip here and everything else follows, It's going to be just high enough for people to believe that maybe, just maybe, all new time highs are around the corner before ending in a final wipeout. This will be Q1 2024. This will be interesting because if people are looking at this, because there are a lot of people that are kind of analyzing the current move here that's similar to 2019, to where we could see another kind of fake bull run and then a drop in the market and then an adjustment, obviously, post-halving, to where we'd start to see some of this move. But right now, he goes on to say it predicts that SOL will continue to be the prime outperformer in the next market expansion. And he loves ETH, grew up professionally along Ethereum's rise, continues to support many Ethereum projects, so that's good. But this cycle, SOL has been and likely will continue to be the faster horse. I don't know. I'd love to give you guys' input on this. I'm still a big ETH fan. Obviously, Solana is surprising me daily just with what they've been able to do. So love to get your feedback. Drop some comments down below. If you're not a subscriber of the channel, also hit the subscribe button. It's one of the best ways you guys can help kind of spread the word around what's happening in blockchain as a whole. I want to go to this last clip here. This is, well, we'll just call it, this is the Bitcoiners at work. Listen in.
USDT was originally entirely based on top of Bitcoin. It moved to Ethereum and other general purpose platforms for speed and all kinds of different reasons.
Does this all consolidate back to Bitcoin and everything goes to zero outside of Bitcoin?
So that's kind of my perspective.
To look at Bitcoin and Lightning and see it as it exists today and think that that's the final state would be very, very naive.
Among all of you, were you attracted to the Lightning Network just because of all the scams and trying to avoid and get into the most robust, secure ecosystem, or had you already bought in?
We've always been Bitcoin only, so we were already bought into Bitcoin.
So if you're already bought in and you're already, kind of already down that rabbit hole, I guess the purpose is you've got to expand it. And, the key there is, have we not seen expansion really take place? This is something that is happening right now. Arthur Hayes, if you guys don't know Arthur Hayes, go look at his work on Medium. He does quite a few blogs out there on it. And he's talked about everything from choke point 2.0, all that kind of stuff. But he hits on a couple of points here that I want to highlight. One is the entry of heavyweight financial players that could shift the balance of power within the Bitcoin marketplace. Now that is and could be brewing right now in the ETF spot submissions that we already have underway. He argues that the concentration of mining capacity could lead to dominance over Bitcoin available on the open market, such as institutions. And then Hayes also suggests that governmental power could compel these institutions to act against the interests of the cryptocurrency's founding principles. That would be interesting. Now, these are just scenarios that, a lot of people in the market would look at. It's kind of like that, the 10th man scenario. If 9 guys think that this is the way it's going to happen, someone needs to represent as the 10th man of saying this may not be the way it happens. He goes on to say that the scenario Hayes paints sees Bitcoin transforming into a passive, immobile asset, losing its dynamic and decentralized currency, one potentially managed by BlackRock, grow too large. It could have detrimental effects on Bitcoin, possibly killing its essence and value proposition. So that would be my question, because this could happen on any kind of asset that is in the state in which Bitcoin is at right now. ETF on Bitcoin, I think a lot of people look at it as both benefit and as negative. I'd love to get your input. Do you think this is good for Bitcoin overall? I definitely think it's going to move the price. The question is, what is its sustainable future around all these ETFs coming to market at one time and possibly getting enough traction underneath them to really change the dynamics of what Bitcoin is going to do? Would that mean that other assets out there like Ethereum, Solana, and some of the others would start to perform? Love to get you guys' input. Always love to kind of get that. If you guys are not in our Diamond Circle, make sure and get in right now. It's one of the best places you guys can get additional content. We do a podcast over there, a couple of other projects where you get additional content that's not here on the show. And of course, if you want to follow me out there on X, it's at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.